What you see here is a bald cypress. They're referred to as bald cypresses because they are one of the few coniferous varieties of trees that lose their leaves. They defoliate. They're deciduous. One of two that we have in collection. This one has acquired a nickname. Some of our trees do. Our visitors call this one the swamp monster because of its large size. And it was actually collected in the swamps of Florida and converted to use as a bonsai. It's also considered one of the finest bald cypress bonsai in existence. This elm is one of my favorite in the collection, not only because it's a very fine bonsai, because it has a really interesting history. It was originally a landscaping tree, and during a construction project, it was removed. In fact, it was pushed out of the ground by a bulldozer and ran over and thrown up on a trash heap to be discarded. One of the members of the Fresno Bonsai Society saw it, went to the job site, asked if they could have it, and planted it in a pot and saved it. All of the branches grown on these two trunks that were broken when the bulldozer ran over it have been grown on since it was created as a bonsai. This Texas cedar elm was collected in the wild and is a true elm. It's a Ulmus crassifolia doll. That's the species. But the interesting name of cedar elm comes from the fact that locally they are always seen growing in the wild in association with what the folks in Texas call cedars, which are really not cedars, they're junipers. Hence the name Texas cedar elm. What you see here is forest grouping or forest planting of trident elms. As with all of the trees, it has a little bit of a backstory of its own. The second largest tree in this group was imported from Japan. How that was done and how it ended up in this group, we're not sure. The rest of the trees in the grouping were all propagated from cuttings from the original tree so that all of the leaves had the same size and same shape, which can happen differently if we were to use trees planted from seed. So to achieve the image of these trees all related, they are. In addition, this grouping was restyled by Ryan Neal a couple of years ago, and one of the trees in the group was removed. And we took that tree and created a raft style with it, and it's in a bonsai right over to my left here, and we'll be talking about that soon. This raft style bonsai started out as one of the trees removed from the trident maple forest group that Ryan Neal restyled. We decided to try to utilize that tree by laying on its side. And all of the little trees that you see in this group are the branches that grew up from the trunk. This mimics a phenomenon in nature where a tree gets blown over in a windstorm, falls on its side, all of the branches on the crushed side die, but the branches on the upside will survive if the trunk roots. And so we have done that with this particular tree and created a raft style. This Camellia bonsai is a favorite of our visitors. In fact, it gets fan mail every year, particularly after the blooms come out. It's a double blossom, big pink ones, and this one is covered with buds this year. So about Christmas time, this is going to have a very dramatic show of pink blossoms. This also has a bit of a history. It was once a landscaping shrub in somebody's yard, but when the Freeway 41 widening project was done several years ago here in Fresno, it was grubbed out of the yard along with another one and saved and used as a bonsai. The other one did not survive the process, and this one did, and we're very fortunate. It's our only camellia that we have in collection. This neat old juniper is a sentimental favorite with those of us that have been connected with this collection for any length of time. It was the original bonsai donated to the Clark Bonsai Collection when we we built the collection. It's also one of Bill Clark's favorite bonsai. At the time, it was at the Clark Bonsai Collection in Hanford at the Clark Center for Japanese Art and Culture. This bonsai always sat on a pedestal immediately to the right of the entrance gate. And it's the only bonsai that isn't changed out on our rotations. So every 90 days we rotate the trees in collection on display so that when visitors come they get to see something new. But by tradition and for sentimental reasons, this one remains on display when all the others get changed out. I can remember back when the collection was at the Clark Center, one of Bill's favorite pastimes was to wait till the end of the day when there were no visitors on the property and the museum gallery had closed for the day. He would come to the bonsai collection and just wander a collection all to himself. And if he saw something that he was interested in or had a question, I would always find a little note in my inbox in the morning when I came to work that Bill wanted to talk to me about something having to do with the bonsai collection. And one of my first tasks was to go to his office to find out what he wanted to know about something he'd seen when there were no visitors around. This little Princess Persimmon is also a favorite with visitors and another of the trees in the collection that gets fan mail every year, primarily because of the display of tiny little bright orange persimmons that it usually is covered with. This year we didn't get a big crop, but we did resave one little tiny persimmon on this tree just so that folks could understand why this rather innocuous looking tree is on display. This forest grouping of Japanese maples is one of my favorite bonsai ever. Not just in this collection, but of all of the bonsai I've seen in my travels, this one is one of my favorites because of the artistry involved in placing these individual trees so that they look very random. It was excellently done. It's also one of the few bonsai we have in collection we actually know the true age of. This was all planted from seed in 1978. This bonsai is a twisted pomegranate and it's ancient. The $64,000 question with all of our visitors, where all of our bonsai is how old is it? And we don't really know, but it's quite old. It was originally owned and styled by Ralph Green, who was one of the founding members of the Hanford Bonsai Society in 1955, which makes the Hanford Society one of the oldest bonsai clubs in the United States.